On the news to discuss the coup is the lead Economic Intelligence Office for Strategic Preparedness and Resilience, Teniola Tayo, to talk about this. Teniola, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the ultimatum given to the junta by ECOWAS to reinstate the democratically elected leader in Niger is due to expire in few days. Mediation talks have broken down. What are we expected to see in the coming days, and what does this mean now that we see that there's been no sort of recourse or decisions being made to hand over power to Mohamed Bazoum?
You're right. And of course, it's difficult to say for certain in which direction things will evolve. Arguably, the coup plotters in Niger were at their most vulnerable during the first 12 hours of the coup, before the mainstream military leadership rallied behind them. But once they were armed with the support of the military, the regime was able to entrench itself. And what this means is that preventing a military coup is less costly than trying to reverse one that has already occurred. The other thing that has happened is that parts of the Nigerian public appear to be providing their support to the military junta, so to the junta. So it's very difficult to see the way things are going to evolve. Tensions are obviously very high at the moment. I think that there may be some withdrawals in positions here and there, but it's possible that the junta is quite optimistic about their chances because also, like you said, there's been some declaration of support again from other military leaders in West Africa. So it's difficult to say, but we're keeping a close tab on things.
Now, are we likely to see the regional bloc put boots on ground in the Niger Republic, considering the fact that the peaceful mediation has failed and the Nigerian army warning that any form of military intervention would be met with equal force? And there have also been talks about ECOWAS or Nigeria not being able to finance that kind of intervention, military intervention in the country. So what are we looking at in that regards to?
So it's difficult to say again because the situation is evolving very quickly and there are a number of factors that can affect how things develop. So yes, at the moment, it appears that ECOWAS under Nigeria's leadership is set to put boots on the ground. But at Osprey, our job is to provide advisory on the risks of such actions. You've mentioned one, which is the fact that it's going to be quite expensive and costly. What some people are describing as a surgical procedure could be a protracted conflict if we're not careful. And of course, there are the 300,000 Nigerian refugees in Niger, whose welfare could be at risk if we go into all-out war. There's the issue of the overall stability in Niger, because Niger has always been a buffer between Nigeria and Libya, and you have other issues like the Tuareg insurgency that can become more salient if there is war. Again, like you mentioned, aside the financial aspect of a military intervention, there's the fact that our military in Nigeria is already overstretched, and such an ECOWAS intervention will be led mostly by the Nigerian military because we have stronger capacity. But our military at the moment is deployed in 32 out of 36 states. So they're already under a lot of strain. And the Nigerian military is tough. It's not like Sierra Leone or some of those other countries. They have a larger territory, they're battle tested, and they have collaborated with the Nigerian military before. So they may be aware of some of our processes and tactics. And then there's, of course, the risks which are already playing out of Nigeria being seen as a proxy of France and the West, because Nigeria is the face of the ECOWAS intervention under the current president. And there's a risk also of the unraveling of ECOWAS. It's a very real risk because, of course, when you had a declaration of support from the other military leaders in ECOWAS, there's this coalition, right, of anti-French military leaders, and it can lead to the pulling out of ECOWAS. And I'll mention here that this is a broader issue relating to the perception that the previous French ruling, the previous Francophone ruling elites were too close to the French government. So you now have this new generation of young military men that are pushing against that. Of course, there's a great power rivalry in the Sahel because you have the geopolitical wars between Russia, Europe, and the US. We're very familiar with those and how these seem to be playing out again in this micro conflict. There's a Wagner group from Russia and some of the things that they have said even about this situation. There are even ethnic tensions. There's that dimension as well because President Bazoum was a Difa Arab, which is a minority group in Niger. And then it could lead to some sort of uprising because you have some cultural proximity between some of those parts and some parts in northern Nigeria, because there is the optic of the issue that it could be like a southern Nigerian president declaring war on a cultural group that has links to both Niger and Nigeria. So our own recommendation is for a more diplomatic approach, because at the moment the risks of an all-out war appear to outweigh the benefits.
All right. Now, away from that, because you've talked about the attendant effects, let's also quickly look at the fight against terrorism. Now, the junta has severe ties with Togo, France, Nigeria, as you've said. Does this action have impact on the counterinsurgency plans of the regional forces?
Of course, we have the MNJTF, which is a multinational joint task force, and it's been very key in the war against violent extremism in the Lake Chad Basin. So if you remember, the Lake Chad Basin region consists of Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. And we realized that the Boko Haram insurgency was a joint problem for these four countries after it spilled over from Nigeria, and that MNJTF was one of the responses to this joint challenge. So if we have increasing hostilities between Nigeria and Niger, as we appear to be seeing, I mean, there's some clips of protest of some Nigerian public, against Nigeria, the Nigerian president, then there is a risk that there could be a complete withdrawal of support from the Nigerian troops with the war against insurgency. And it's not even just violent extremism in the Lake Chad Basin region, because, when it comes to Nigeria and Niger, we have a lot of common problems. The banditry that we experience in the northwest of Nigeria, the northwest and north central, is also there's also a similar challenge in Niger. So you have a region like the Maradi region where it's been a hotspot for cross-border movements of violent entrepreneurs between Nigeria and Niger. There are even other issues like the flow of weapons, the flow of arms, the flow of fighters taking solace in one region versus in the other. So cooperation from Niger has always been key to containing these various threats, and it's unclear how it will change under the current situation. But there is a huge threat there.
All right, we'll continue to monitor the situation in that axis of the country, or of the African continent, as the case may be. Thank you so much, Tenola Taya, for talking to us.
Thank you.